My name is Alex Sorton. I was born February 16th, 1940. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran. Basically, forgot the last question.
Highest rank?
Highest rank, I was called Petty Officer, second class.
Where were you born?
I was born in Riga, Latvia.
What was your parents' occupation?
Was my what?
Parents' occupation.
I'm retired right now, but I used to work as a instructor at Northwestern University before I retired.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
None.
What were you doing before entering the service?
I was basically a senior at the University of Illinois studying civil engineering.
Did you ever have any family that served as well?
No.
Were you drafted or did you enlist into this?
I had to enlist because I flunked out of my senior year and I didn't want to be drafted, so I joined the Navy.
Why did you choose your specific branch?
I wanted to be a weatherman, and my recruiter said that if I would sign, I could probably, based upon my education, be a weatherman.
Tell us about your departure in early days of training camp.
I basically had a choice of going to two boot camps, either in San Diego or at the Great Lakes, which is north of Fort Sheridan. Well, when I enlisted, it was February, it was very cold, and I didn't want to go to the Great Lakes training camp, so I chose basically to go to San Diego because it's a little warmer there than it was here in Illinois.
What was it like adapting to military life?
It wasn't that bad. They made me the recruit company commander, so I was in charge of 55 other recruits when our petty officer chief wasn't around. He was usually around during the daytime, but in the evening and nights, basically, I was kind of responsible for them.
Did you receive any specialized training?
Yes, I did. Basically, after 17 weeks of boot camp, normally boot camp is 12 weeks, but because we had a meningitis breakout at our boot camp facility, everybody was quarantined for another 4 weeks. So at the end of that, they sent me to what's called an A school, which was called Engineering Aid School, and they trained me to be a surveyor.
Where did you serve?
I basically served in Okinawa. And while I was in Okinawa for only a month, basically, then they sent me to a island which is about halfway between Japan and Hawaii. It's a little island that's about a mile wide by about a mile in height. It's called Marcus Island. God-forsaken place. I was there for 6 months with 23 other Seabees. We were basically resurfacing the runway. We were there and extending it another 500 feet because bigger airplanes couldn't land there. It was only like 4,000 feet, and so we extended it to 4,500 feet. And I did the surveying for that. Then I came back to Okinawa for the remaining 2 months, and then basically are deployed back home. The way the Seabees work, basically, is we're deployed for 8 months away from the States, and then we come back for 6. And then basically we go back for 8 and then come back for 6. That's normally our normal service of duty situation for the Seabees.
Can you give us any more details of your trip abroad?
Well, that was one of them. My second trip abroad was the final one where I got to go to Vietnam. I was initially flown out. There were 70 of us were flown out basically in May of '65, which was kind of the beginning of the buildup of the Vietnam War. We were there basically to establish a base camp for our battalion. Our battalion's strength normally is 750 people. And we were going to scout out some territories, and we were flown into Da Nang, and they said that they wanted us to go to Da Nang East, which is across the river from the air base. They're saying is that area still is considered a combat zone. It basically is kind of a hostile territory. And the detachment went out there. Basically, I was a surveyor, so I kind of laid out our camp, where our buildings would be, where our mess hall would be. and where our basically perimeter would be, which basically we had to put mines there and basically concertina wire so that basically anybody would try to come across there. We would catch them, plus we had to lay out where all of the machine gun emplacements were to protect the camp. Our battalion arrived about a month later, and then we had already established the perimeters and some just basic locations. We lived in tents, basically, so all the time I was in Vietnam, me and my other battalion mates lived in temporary tents, and we did not get a chance to build actually buildings for us. We were shipped out before that was finished, and then we lived there. While I was there, like I laid out, Marine was called MAG 16, Marine Air Group for the helicopter, for the Huey helicopter base, which was right across from our camp. I laid out a naval hospital site, which we started building also for all the wounded in that area coming in. We had finished that naval hospital site on October 28th was almost finished when we were attacked by 100 Viet Kong. Another 100 attacked the Marine base, and another 50 attacked the hospital sites. We suffered 93 casualties in the attack. Our, at that time, battalion strength was 515 persons, so we almost had 20% casualty rate. 2 were killed, 91 were wounded. They completely destroyed the hospital site. And we had it almost finished, ready to move in, and they came in there and they threw satchel charges into all of the what's called Quonset huts, or single-story type buildings, and destroyed that. They also attacked the Marine Air Squadron across the road from us, and they also took heavy casualties. Had 3 killed there, and again, 90-some wounded. Destroyed 4, the Huey helicopters, they basically destroyed almost 60% of the helicopters that were there. They basically, the strength of 100 actually overran the Marine perimeter, and they got onto the base, and they were throwing satchel charges into all the helicopters they could find, and also, meantime, using small arms to inflict damage upon when the crews came out to try to put out the fires on the helicopters. So that was the first indoctrination of coming under attack.
What kind of action did you witness, and what were your duties on the front line?
Well, I wasn't on the front line. I was a surveyor, and so a lot of my things required that I'd go in areas that were considered combat zones, but were really I didn't see much combat there. I would, sniper fire, things like that. We all basically, what's interesting about the Seabees are construction personnel, basically. But one of the things the Seabees are also trained to do by the Marines, because we usually support the Marines, we are taught to how to defend ourselves so that there wouldn't have to be a Marine personnel staying behind at any of our construction sites. So if you would look at us, we looked like Marines. We wore the Marine fatigues, we had the helmets, we had the guns, we had the ammunitions. The only thing you could tell different from us, from the Marines, is our patches would say U.S. Navy Seabee, basically. And otherwise, we from a distance, we looked like Marines.
What were your emotions relating to combat, and what were you doing?
I think initially my emotions, I'm saying as well, I didn't get hit, I didn't get wounded, I was one of the lucky ones. But 2 days later, one of my friends that I was pretty close to, one of the Seabees actually died, and another one died. And after that, it was like a shutdown situation. It was unbelievable that 2 of my friends in the battalion actually were dead, And so it kind of hit home that, what combat is really like is that one day your friends are there and the next day they aren't there anymore. And that was kind of a sobering thought.
What kind of friendships and camaraderie was formed?
While we're there, I think we were all close. I think if you ask any of us now, would we do it all over again? The answer would definitely be yes. And any of the veterans I talk to right now basically tell me the same thing, that, that they would serve again, even many of the hardships that we endured while we were overseas.
How did you stay in touch with family and friends at home?
Generally, we just writing letters. That's the only way, because we were basically middle of nowhere. We were on Da Nang Beach. It was a China beach. And that's kind of the interesting thing, that there was a television show from 1988 to 1991 on television called China Beach. And it was about nurses at a hospital site. That hospital site is the one that we built and was destroyed during this attack. And the attack was October 28th, and we had the thing rebuilt again by January 15th, and they moved into the hospital on January 15th, after every building that we had built was destroyed.
Can you tell us about your recreation and off-duty pursuits?
The only off-duty we had there is we could stay on base in Vietnam, basically, because they allowed us to go into the city of Da Nang initially, but some of my battalion mates came back with sexual transmitted diseases, and those diseases were so bad that medication couldn't basically cure them while they were there, and they had to be shipped off to Japan. So after that happened to about 6 or 7 of them, they shut down all the liberty to go into Da Nang, and so basically we stayed on the base. I did get a chance to go for 7 days to Bangkok, Thailand, for it's called R&R, Rest and Recreation, and that was really relaxing because you got away from the rigors of not only building things but also the potential of being attacked, and so it was a more relaxing situation, so I enjoyed that.
Did you return home before the war ended?
No, I basically was one of the fortunate ones that I went basically in May of '65, was basically discharged out of Vietnam. I was actually sent to Treasure Island in California for my discharge on December of '65. So basically, that was the situation there, whereas some of my other battalion mates basically went back 3 more times. And my battalion was actually decommissioned back in 1969 at the drawdown of the Vietnam War.
How did you return home?
They flew me into initially Subic Bay. I stayed overnight in Subic Bay. Then they flew me to Treasure Island. In San Francisco, I got discharged there, and then they flew me home basically to here to O'Hare, and then my parents picked me up from O'Hare Airport a little after Christmas of '65.
What was your reception like by your family and community?
My mother was very good to see me because when she heard that there was an attack on her base on basic October 28th, and then we took fairly heavy casualties, she had a nervous breakdown, and she was hospitalized down in a hospital in Aurora, and basically she was, when I came back again, I got to see her, and I guess just seeing me made her much better, but she couldn't go back to work anymore. She basically was hospitalized, and she couldn't basically be a secretary anymore. She used to be was a secretary at the Illinois Division of Highways, which used to be in Elgin at that time, and because of that nervous breakdown, she could never work again after that. But she was happy to see me to come back home again. Same thing with the relatives. It wasn't the same for a lot of my friends that came back later because there was that anti-Vietnam movement, and many of the friends, and even when I went back to college to get my degree, finish off my last half year, there was ambivalence after I made some presentation during my English class on my time in Vietnam and showed them some of my slides I had. And they turned their back on me because I was a Vietnam veteran. A lot of my friends told me after I talked to them, they came back, coming back through the airports in Los Angeles and San Francisco, people were calling them baby killers and spitting on them and basically telling them they're not very proud of them. And one of the things that made us mad is, we were serving our country. We had no choice. We had to go over there. We had to fight the situation. And it was a political problem. It wasn't basically a problem from the soldiers that were over there, and that was kind of hard to take, where the society kind of looked down upon soldiers that were coming back from Vietnam.
How did you readjust to civilian life?
I generally had no problem again because I finished My college education, became a civil engineer. The GI Bill helped me pay for the final year. Because I was gone so long, I had basically had to do more than a semester. I had to actually do 3 more semesters to finish off to get my civil engineering degree, because I also switched colleges at that time, because when I got discharged, I couldn't go back to the University of Illinois because they already had started the semester. So I went to a small college in Indiana called Tri-State University, and I finished it there. And then I came back to Elgin, and I worked for the Illinois Division of Highways right here in Elgin at that time. It's right now in Elgin. We're on State Street, right across from the hospital, mental hospital there on State Street. Today, that's now the Division of Motor Vehicles, where you get your driver's licenses situation. But that was the office I first started working in. I kind of forgot all about Vietnam and just put myself into my work at that point.
Did you, or have you stayed in contact with your fellow veterans, and how?
The only one I've been in contact with is one of my friends that basically is in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I basically went to his wedding, and basically I get to see him maybe once a year. Either I go up there, my wife and I, or he and his wife comes down and see me here. But that's the only one I really kept in contact with.
How have wartime experiences affected your life?
I think I kind of wiped everything out again. I think everything's been rekindled this year because they brought the Vietnam Wall to Elgin, out by back of the Hemmons Auditorium and back of City Hall there. And memories flooded back again because 6 of my battalion mates were killed during that attack. Well, during that attack and other times, and they are on the wall. And it's kind of hard to look at their names and remember everything we went through over there. And so that kind of rekindled my memories of what happened while I was served in Vietnam.
What lessons have you learned from your military service?
What was the question there?
What lessons have you learned from military service?
Probably discipline. Keep your mouth shut unless you're talked to. Basically, that was hard to do because I basically had a lot of construction experience before I went to Vietnam. I was working myself through college, so in the summertime I used to work for the Illinois Division of Highway, and I helped build or lay out the bypass, the Elgin bypass right here. Helped lay out the bridge over the Fox River, and laid out the interchange at 31 in McLean Boulevard, as well as at Route 20 situation, and also at the other end at 20 on the east side. So when I was in Vietnam, I was just an enlisted person. I was not an officer. Yet I knew more than the officers that were there, because most of the officers we had were very young officers, just out of college, had no experience. And they were trying to tell me what to do things, and basically some of the things they were telling me was incorrect, and I would tell them what they were telling me is incorrect, and they would say, who's the officer, me or you? And I would say, okay, we'll do it your way. And so we did some of the things their way, and it didn't work. And so I showed them how to do that, and they were kind of embarrassed about that. And so they basically weren't happy with me. And so finally the word got up to our commanding officer of the battalion that there was some animosity between me and the officers out there, and he called them in, and he looked at my record and say, this guy is almost the same thing as you, because he has 3.5 years of civil engineering. All of our officers were civil engineers, except his construction experience. He has about 3 or 4 years of actual construction experience. And we need that knowledge, and most of you don't have that experience. So they told them to lay off of me, because he says, this is our guy, and he's our troubleshooter. Anytime there's a problem somewhere with some construction roadways or layout of the camp and stuff like that, he says, we use this person because he's got the knowledge. So in that regard, I think I was thankful that our commander basically did that, because otherwise I was kind of being picked on by the officers, like, sniping at and giving me jobs that weren't really the best jobs that were out there. And once this went out, then basically they had a little more respect for me.
Thank you again for your service, and thanks again for talking
Well, thank you.